Good afternoon. Audio check.
Hi, good afternoon. I can hear you, so you're good.
Thank you so much.
And you're on time. I like that. Actually,
Hey,
a little couple minutes early. That's perfect.
well, you know the old saying, right? If you're on time, you're late.
That's true. Yeah.
I didn't want to disappoint Mori either. She got me all hyped up last Friday to get caffeinated for this.
Oh, awesome. Hi, Mori.
Hi, how are you all?
Good. How are you?
Good. Perfect. How's it going, Edwin?
It's been a unique week. Um, I'm here in San Antonio, and San Antonio got if you're an NBA fan, they got the first draft pick, and so there's highly likely they're going to get a superstar. And same time, my Lakers got swept, so I'm already kind of in dangerous territory.
The
And
sports,
yeah,
the
yeah,
sports will get people going.
yeah. So at the airport, every now and then they'll give me a lanyard, because we wear our badges when we're at the airport. I've gotten three different San Antonio Spurs lanyards. And it's from the same folks every single time, and I'm like, I don't know if I could put that on. It doesn't fit.
And
They
see,
love
you have a Lakers like key thing. Okay, yeah.
it's because we constantly have to wear our badge, when we're going in about the facilities. But yeah, they will always point that out, and it's kind of been a tough week just having to kind of stomach that.
Well, good. Well, the good thing is that it is just sports and
Yeah.
stuff. Um, but I get it. I know how, like, my brother and my dad, like, I get it. Even my best friend, she's super into sports. I want to make sure I'm saying your last name right. Say it for me.
Tamang.
Tamang.
It's the most common pronunciation. I mean, if you're speaking Tagalog, it's Tamang, but I would go with
Tamang.
Tamang. That's a
Hmm.
little bit easier to convey.
Exactly. Well, thank you. Yes, I'm looking forward to this conversation today. Hey, Ashley, I haven't even seen you, so it's nice to actually put a face with the name.
Likewise. Yes, definitely nice to meet you.
Uh, yes, Ms. Clout. I don't think we've actually formally, virtually or in person have met. So thank you for your patience with all the emails I keep shooting off for the.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay.
Like, make sure I have this, have me prepared.
Yeah.
And it's a little crazy with the conference, what, like 9 days, well, 10 days away. So
I know. That's
it's,
what I looked on the website yesterday. I was like, 10 days? Oh my gosh. Less
I
than a
know it's crazy that June is tomorrow. It's kind of
exactly.
scary, actually. I don't know where May went.
Exactly.
Good afternoon, Dennis.
Hey, Dennis.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm glad we got the IT worked out here.
Exactly. Let me turn.
Are, are you traveling abroad, Dennis?
No, I'm here just trying to deal with my allergies today. My God, I'm uh,
Ah,
I'm here on Wall Street, overseeing beautiful Trinity Church.
ooh.
Nice spring day.
That's the one thing I will say coming from reasonably warmer areas. Whether it's South Florida, now Texas, or before like LA, we don't know how to appreciate spring because it's seasonally warm throughout. But whenever I go to like, Chicago or New York, springtime, everyone's out and about because they know it's a limited time affair. So thanks for that reminder.
Yeah, no, we don't take it lightly. We don't take
So,
it
so
for
you
granted.
say your allergies are real messed up now?
Yeah,
Yeah, see, the allergy season is, I don't want to say it's gone in Atlanta, but like that season passed a few weeks ago. I would say probably about a month ago. It's just, it was tons of pollen everywhere, but now it's not as bad.
yeah. I popped a couple of Legos last night and this morning.
Good.
I hope I don't fall asleep on you.
Do not.
Let me see. Am I dark? My location, I'm a little dark, huh?
And
Um,
Let me see
you're
something.
good.
Let me see
a
if I
little
can.
bit. And Dennis, if you have the settings app, you
Yeah.
can go under the video and there's like a brightness setting. I get that sometimes when I'm at the terminal where I don't have a light above me.
let's see. So I see participants, Q&A, raise hand, apps, settings, huh? Let's see where the settings are. You know
I
what?
think if you look under the video where your video is, that little arrow there,
Yeah,
click on that and video settings.
wait, I see the video. I'm clicking my video.
Okay, but do you see like the arrow that's next to it? Like the little up thing?
Let me do me a favor. I'm gonna get someone to help me in a second. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I was gonna say either way, he looks fine, but I could be brighter, like if I were like right in front of the window, but I'm like,
Well, the background too kind of takes away a lot of the lighting as well.
exactly. That's so true. I had to give my new puppy, I have like a 10-week-old puppy. I had to give him like a little chewy thing right now.
Aw. What kind of puppy?
He's a French bulldog.
Aw, I love bulldogs.
I
It's
know.
a little dark here. Is there a setting that I can make myself look lighter?
Oh, I think it's just the lighting. Let's try this. The lighting, if it's better this way.
Is that better?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Is
better?
it a little bit better?
Okay, I need sunglasses, but that's okay.
Oh.
Okay, got it. All right, we'll do that. But this is a setting thing that we can use then.
Really was the screen. Let me see.
She was saying that under the video
Mm.
that you can see on the settings.
Yeah, like where the video, it says like stop video, there's an arrow there, I think on the right side. If you click that and it's video settings,
Yeah.
and then if you go to video, like you could do like HD or just light, you can do auto.
Yeah.
I think this will be okay.
Yeah. Video setting. Yes. Let's see if we can change this video.
HD.
Just to yes.
Just a low light. But right now it's not low light, maybe, right?
Not
Huh.
okay.
Maybe stop and try and see, so active.
It's the other
I don't know,
one.
Edwin, what did you say was the setting you used?
So Ashley was pointing out, like, if you're looking at your user interface at the bottom left where it says stop video, that
Yeah.
little arrow on the top right corner of that icon, when you click that, it says video settings at the bottom.
Mhm.
You select that, and then you go to the
Light.
the video. Under my video, it's the third option where it says adjust for low light. Switch that to manual and move the item all the way to the right, and it should adjust the
Oh,
brightness.
that hair is on point. I really like that look. Very, very cute.
It's just these.
Did anybody check on Ricky yet?
I'll send him a text.
Well, he did get the email because he verified that it was the right link, and that was about 20 minutes ago. So I'm sure
Yeah,
he'll be joining, but he's usually a little late, or not really late, but not he's closer to 2,
Yeah, he's like, I'll just hop on. Yeah.
right?
If you went dark, it'll happen. No?
Good afternoon, Ebony.
Hi, Edwin. I'll be right back.
Edwin Tamang. Am I saying it right? Okay.
Well, if you said it with more fierceness, then I just brings me back to school of where I'm in trouble.
No. And I guess really, I don't know, Ashley, if you have any housekeeping, but I mean, I guess if anyone has any background noise and they're not talking, and just put it on mute.
Yeah,
And being,
I'll be able to mute them.
Yeah.
I can kind of control the participants on
yeah.
my end.
And then, Ricky's going to have some questions. I'm going to have some questions. So I know, Edwin, you said, hey, stop us if we're long-winded, which I don't think we want to do, but just y'all being conscious of like, okay, the more, you get into it, answer the question, share as much as you want, but the quicker that's done, the more we'll have opportunities to ask some more of those questions, from, some of the things we spoke about.
Gotcha.
And I'm going to read y'all's bios, like not the whole bio, but just a quick paragraph of it. So feel free to say anything that I missed, like when you talk about yourself.
Not a problem. Just on the logistics, I know when y'all are asking like questions and as it's flowing, when the audience is asking questions, they usually put it in the type, because I know I've typed it before. Will Dennis and I be able to see those, or are those really just going to be read off by Mori or Ricky? Like will we see those in the chat, or are those directed just towards the facilitators?
I think they'll be in the chat, but what we'll do is we'll end at 2:55 and we'll allow Ebony or Ashley to come on, and then we'll get into some of the questions from the audience. Is that correct, ladies?
Yeah, Ebony will do the closing.
Okay.
And Maury, sometimes
If it's relevant.
most times Lauren stays on later. Are you doing that? Or if not, I'll just close it, we'll close it out.
We'll see. Like if there's a lot of questions, I can stay on an extra like 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
But if not, we'll just close it out, but I'll make it clear.
Okay.
Okay. And let me ask, Ebony, do you read the questions that are asked, or do you want it 2:55 when you come on and then you'll ask those, right? Like we don't need
a lot of times what we have been doing, as you guys will have your questions, right? And as interesting, Lauren will be monitoring the chat, and as interesting questions came up that you guys actually might want to have a dialogue on, then she would go ahead and ask them. And then if not, then at the end, we could ask the questions. I would flag for you and Ricky that there are a couple questions in the chat. And then one of you would take those questions and then, kind of launch into the dialogue. But it works best to check, definitely to check the chat. Yeah, because it may be like right in.
It could be relevant.
You're talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, sounds good. Our straggler. I said, Ricky, you just like, I know this. I don't need it. I hop on too.
Stop it.
Then join our prep call. Said I'm gonna come in at the last minute on the 1:45, but we're glad you're here.
You know what? You're worse than Lauren. I thought I was gonna get a break. I thought I was gonna get a break. Gosh.
This is private.
It's been a theme on these calls. Ricky's always getting beaten up on these things.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm glad you observed. Thank you. Wow.
But you can take it.
How you doing, Ebony, Ashley, Edwin?
Good. How are you, Ricky?
I'm doing okay. I like the hair, Ebony.
Yes,
I like the hair. I like the
she done
hair.
fixed it up.
Yeah.
Come on, San Antonio.
Come on. Listen, I need some positive energy, because
you got it.
Last days are they are a doozy.
Yeah. Make sure you get a fresh wash and style a day prior.
I am. I'll be at the salon Thursday.
Thursday
morning. And if it wasn't San Antonio, I might have somebody out there.
Exactly.
That's true. Yeah. All right. Well, Dennis and Edwin, we don't tell you questions in advance. But I will not ask you questions about your hairdo, okay? You can.
There's not much to talk about.
Well, I mean, Ricky, Maury said that you're going to bring the heat this go around. So, and I think Dennis agreed that all the hard questions are going towards him. And,
so is that what you want? Go ahead.
He's up for the challenge.
Yeah, Edwin's setting himself up. So,
yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was like, Ricky, he said that, so it was like, how that's like that reverse psychology.
Exactly.
Like, don't do this, but they really want you to do it.
Right.
I've seen Edwin in action. He's gonna be fine.
Okay.
Give him the hard question. Close the way in.
Remember, I think you just normally go offline, but if you go, if you do leave, make sure to make me the co-host because the recording will stop because you are the recording person.
Okay. Andre he shouldn't be on the panel, right?
No, he shouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, he's probably logging in from last time when he was helping me. Yeah, so actually, Ashley, hopefully you don't have to log off and you can stay on because I think that last time the recording broke.
Yep. Let me just,
Yeah.
I'll be on the whole time. Let me just send this to Andre real quick.
Okay, great.
And then I'll start. Yeah. Hey, Andre. Hello? Oh, all right. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start the music in the webinar.
Okay.
Legends and Leapers. Leader, you are a leader. You are a leader. Rising right up the ranks. You're a leader. Lessons will teach you just how to reach your endless ambitions. Oh, yeah. Look at yourself in the mirror. Turn that frown upside down. Show what you're working with. You can't depend on someone else to see a future. That part is up to you. Be a leader. You are a leader. You are a leader. Rising right up the ranks. You're a leader. Lessons will teach you. You gotta be how to reach it. Endless ambitions. Oh yeah. Success is right at your door now. You are the flesh of it. Somebody every bit. The chatter never should stop you. Don't let it rift your trail. Fall till you've had enough.
Good afternoon. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast, and welcome to the May installation of Legends and Leapers. My name is Ebony Wimbush, the president and CEO of AMAC, and I want to thank you for joining us for another dynamic and engaging Legends and Leapers conversation. May is designated as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. It's the annual celebration that honors the many contributions and accomplishments of Asian Americans, Pacific Islander Americans, and Native Hawaiians, excuse me. Membership at AMAC matters, and representation of membership at AMAC matters. So this month, we are honored to welcome two of our finest members who represent AMAC in the industry, and looking forward to an exciting conversation with them. Also, we have our I should say our co-host who's in and out, you usually see Lauren. Lauren has welcomed her new baby into this world. And so her Vice Chair, Mori Russell, is supporting and lending her voice and perspective and expertise. So we're excited to have you, Mori. But before we turn it over to Ricky and Mori, I want to give you a few updates. We are all things conference all the time, every day. We are just a week and a half, exactly 9 days, 13 hours, 55 minutes, and 53 seconds if you're monitoring the countdown on our conference website. A couple deadlines that you should know. Today is the last day for exhibit and sponsor registration. So if you want that added visibility at the conference for your company, please make sure to log on to the conference website and sign up for exhibitor sponsor registration. Friday is the last day for online registration. And so we would encourage you to go online and register. We will have some registration on site, but this conference will be another record attendance year. And so some events actually are already sold out. The DBELO training is already at capacity. We do have registrations available for on-site for the full conference. We certainly have the opportunity to participate in the business matchmaking. CWIA is near capacity. So if you're intending to participate with that, we ask you to go on and buy your ticket as soon as possible. And there's still a few golf slots left. And so we'd welcome you there. With that, I am going to turn it over so that we can get started and talk to you a little bit about why we continue to have this engaging virtual conversation with Legends and Leapers, and then jump right into our panelists. So I'm going to turn it over to Mori, Ricky.
Well, Ricky, I was going to have you just open up just for people who haven't been, tell them a little bit about Legends and Leapers, and then I will introduce our legend and our leaper today.
You know, and I tell you, this is the second month in a row Ebony has put her performance appraisal at risk.
You know, we're girl power too around here. So.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to others. As Ebony stated, welcome to this edition of Legends and Leapers. I am so happy to have Dennis and Edwin on with us for this special month, and to be rejoined by my ace coon boon, Mori Russell, as the co-host. This is truly an upgrade because Lauren is somewhere nursing the newborn. I just said Lauren has a child every year and a half. I mean, and so we got to revisit that contract thing with her because she doesn't show up enough. So anyway, I digress. So as you know, Legends and Leapers is an opportunity for us to bring together someone who may have a more seasoned perspective based on, experience or being in the industry for a period of time, versus someone who is less seasoned, perhaps new to the industry, young in his or her profession, with a less seasoned perspective. And we want to see how those different perspectives match up against the questions that we ask. We don't provide them the questions in advance. And so we try to get some shock value out of the questions that we ask. So with that being said, hold on for another good edition. I'll turn it over to my amazing co-host, Mori Russell.
Yes, well, thank you so much, Ricky. And we are pleased to have our legend and our leaper today. Thank you guys for being here. So I'm going to do a little introduction, starting off with our leaper for today, Mr. Edwin Tamang. Edwin is a thought leader and is the vice president with Kimley-Horn and Associates. Edwin has driven strategic growth within the aviation infrastructure market to deliver in excess of $5 billion in combined terminal and airfield infrastructure development projects in his 17-year tenure, which I know he looks very young, but 17 years has he been with Kimley-Horn and Associates. Edwin has also contributed to AMAC Project Leaders Inspiring Future Talent, Project Lift, as you all know it. It's happening again this year. And he was actually named in 2020 Airport Business Magazine's top 40 under 40. And he frequently serves as the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator at Kimley-Horn. Edwin, thank you so much for being here with us today. And moving on to our leaper, Mr. Dennis Yap. Dennis is the founder and president of DY Consultants, which is an award-winning aviation consulting firm based in New York. With 37 years of airport experience, he serves as the project executive, lead planner, and designer for hundreds of airport initiatives to ensure the highest level of service and satisfactory delivery of all projects. Dennis is deeply committed to partnering with airport owners. So airports, listen out. This is somebody y'all want to get to know as their planner and engineer. His engineering background helps him to provide practical solutions to challenges faced by airports and successfully transition projects from planning the airside, terminal, and landside construction. As a business owner, Dennis takes considerable pride and satisfaction in aiding the advancement of young professionals, a true legend. He is dedicated to producing a new generation of leaders within the aeronautical community. Dennis, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you both for being here, and Mori, thanks for that introduction, those introductions. And so why don't we jump right in, and I'll ask the first question, and Mori, not so rudely, will jump in and ask the questions that she wants to ask, and we'll get through this. So my first question is for both of you. Can you kind of provide some insight for this community as to how did you get into this industry or into the business? Is it something that was inspired by family members, friends from childhood, or did you, like myself, did you get into the industry by accident? What's your story? How did you get into this industry?
Edwin, if you don't mind, I could get started on this. I totally got into this industry by accident. One of the people that I looked up to when I was younger, my cousin, would tell me that, one of the great things to be is an engineer. And I wasn't exactly sure what that meant. I thought you drive trains. That's what an engineer does. But I later found out that I was very interested in this. And I found out that I had an interest in transportation, but I also had an interest in developing things and civil engineering. So it just happened quite naturally for me. And I actually answered an ad. I had no idea, as a civil engineer, my transportation class had very little to do with airports. But I answered an ad to a firm that was very similar to mine at the time here in New York. That was a time when aviation wasn't a thing. This was back in the 80s, so it wasn't quite as glamorous as it was. And I got into it, it took off from there. I was pleasantly surprised, and I never looked back. I enjoyed it.
Ricky, I would have to echo that. It's a bit of an accident for myself as well. If you were to ask me when I was a junior high or high school student, I wanted to write. I didn't really have any aspirations of doing engineering. In fact, I probably wasn't the best math or science student. I was working odd jobs, and I actually picked up work framing timber. It was under the table. And I still remember, I never understood, how the homes were being designed or, how they came up. I just showed up to the site, and, one of the days I asked one of the superintendents, I was like, who's the guy and the gal in the shirt and tie, and why is the soup always afraid of them? And it explained, like, well, they're the architect and the engineer. They're the ones that put together the plans. And I think it was little engagements like that in time. I applied to college, and I didn't really know what exact engineering I wanted to study. I ultimately selected civil engineering, and I think along the way I got exposure to it, but I'd be remiss if I said I knew exactly what I wanted to do early on. I think I had a lot of luck of folks having patience to kind of encourage and expose me to what this industry is. Now, when it comes to airports, I'd grown up around Edwards Air Force Base, so a lot of aviation, a lot of military around over there. And I still remember one of the individuals that spoke at an outreach event and talked about careers in that. And so I kind of picked, well, I fell into engineering, and let me marry that up with airports. So I feel blessed about it because it's quite frankly an accident.
So both of you are here in this industry, in this space by accident. By accident. If you had to do it all over again and you were intentional about it, what would you do differently?
That's a good one. Dennis, if you're okay, I'll jump in. One of the things that I've gotten exposed to in our great airport industry, there's a lot of former military, and you get to hear of their stories on things, and understanding that there's a process if you had aspirations of go into a military academy, and what that process of engagement is, application, meeting with your congressional delegation. Now that I've gotten to kind of meet a lot of different individuals, I think it would have been unique to experience that early on. So if I could tweak something, it would be probably in service like that, whether it was U.S. Air Force or U.S. Coast Guard. I probably would have looked at those academies.
Yeah, no, I don't think I would have done anything differently. It was exactly when I fell into it. I really totally enjoyed it because I had no idea. I mean, as a young person, I always was committed to what I was doing, and I was always in levels of leadership in some ways in college, in clubs and things like that, or in sports. I was a big volleyball player at one time, and I was leading a volleyball team. I was traveling around the country for a while, and then I was totally dedicated to this aviation thing. And once I got into it, there was no turning back. What I would do a little bit differently is I might have taken a little bit more risk in the way I went about my business. I took it very slowly, and even today, we're not a large firm, and that's by design. We wanted to make sure that I delivered. But when I look back at it now, when I first started, I was very much focused on FAA standards and focusing on the air side and being really great at one thing. But now when I look at where the industry is today and what I could have done and where we are today, I wish I might have progressed a little bit quicker. Understanding aviation and the operations, one of the great things I really enjoy with my staff today is that, we design things for safety and we meet all the regulations, but there's a side of it that's a business side of it. There's a side of it that you want to increase the operational efficiency on an airport. And all of that sort of aspect, and today with the green and the sustainability and digital transformation, there's so much excitement that was been going on and so much innovation. I wish I was a little bit more aggressive at the beginning years, but it all worked out fine for me.
Yeah. Well, and I know that y'all are saying luck, but I mean, even the way you speak about it, and Edwin, you too, is just like, it's faith, it's fate. It was like supposed to happen. So I like your response to say for y'all to be aware of like things that could have been different, but I believe it happens as it's supposed to. And Dennis, I like that you kind of bring up some of the things that maybe you would have done different. It's just kind of gotten into more things, learn more things. And that kind of takes me to your bio when, something that's very important to you is the next generation and, exposing and kind of building those next generation of leaders. How does that have an impact on some of the things you're saying? Hey, I wish I would have done that or been up on this. Like, how does that play into your business today? And what are you doing specifically to live, being that person that is elevating the next generation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love that question. You brought up an interesting word, the word safe. And part of the sort of the challenges that the Asian American community has is they are very safe. They're not very big risk takers. They defer to authority. They're very modest. In fact, they even, there's even a sort of a cultural thing where it's disrespectful to look someone straight in the eye at some cultures, where in the American culture, if you don't look someone in the eye, it's considered being rude. So yeah, the whole idea of taking it slow, taking it easy, even the idea of having a steady job, getting a job in a government agency. Don't take a risk, don't lose your job. That's very much a big part of the Asian culture and a little bit of the challenge that we have to go through. As far as the younger generations, I'm very much aware of the younger generations, a different generation than when I grew up. They're a little bit more vocal. They may not be as obedient as I was, maybe, but I like the idea that they're going to take that risk. The one thing I do recognize today, and what I instill in my office right now, is I know that the upbringing is a little bit different. I sort of see that the way we grew up and we worked in our community in the 80s and 90s, especially in the engineering, that traditional method is not as effective as I feel it's going to be with this newer generation. And I'm very hopeful. So what I have instilled in our office is a little bit more of an agile management system where there's a little bit more room for communication with the younger people, a little bit more opportunity for them to participate and make a contribution and work in more of a roundtable setting rather than me sitting in the front of a room and everyone listening to direction given by a senior person. And that is what I'm really looking to promote. I think it's going to be important that it works that way. Otherwise, we're just not going to be, it's not going to be effective. It's just a different way of working right now. And I'm very thoughtful about that. We got to be a little bit more empathetic these days. And we got to be very much aware of how we're going to be effective. I've always had the same in my office, you know, what's good for people is good for business. And I'm really a true believer in that.
That's great. What were you going to say, Edwin?
To expand on that, Dennis, I mean, that's very poignant because, you know, I look back on memories of there's kind of old school of developing, you know, partners and paying it forward. And even for myself, what I've learned, you know, in my career to date has been, you know, just because I've learned something a certain way doesn't mean that's exactly how moving forward folks need to learn that. And I think one of the biggest recognitions is making sure that you give everyone kind of that tailored treatment. And you're right, it is different. You know, if I look at, let's say, from our interns, our entry level, our newly licensed individuals and on up, I could tell it's very different from maybe how I had started initially on things. And when, you know, there was kind of like, hey, here's how you're going to learn, here's why you're going to learn it this way, and you're going to spend so many years before you try to alter that. And I think it can be effective to a point, but you're right, we have to adapt. And I think there's been a paradigm shift. You know, younger professionals have options, they have other aspirations, and you want to make sure that you align that with them. So admittingly, hard lesson learned for myself.
Yeah, that's some. So with you, Edwin, like, I mean, 17 years, I'm like, okay, he's been 17 years somewhere. I'm not going to ask your age, you know, but what has been your process from, I know you said your mom came from the Philippines to the US. Like, what's been that process other than the accident, it kind of falling on you from starting 17 years with Kimley-Horn and now having that VP role?
You know what? It's kind of what Dennis said, which is probably more of a against the grain. You know, I look at what my parents had done, particularly my mother, and she took a lot of risks. So there's recognizing you can take risks, and when you do, like, empty the tank. And what I mean is, like, leave it all on the table, where, you know, you don't want to really engage on an effort, a risky effort, without putting your best effort on it. And it doesn't always result in a win, but there will be a lesson on it. So I think it's a little bit of the discipline to understand opportunities, being kind of courageous, take a risk, and know that, hey, you might skid your knee, you might fail terribly, but it's still a movement forward. And so for myself, I would say it's been unique, you know, at 17 years into it, and y'all will probably remember this. I mean, 17 years ago into it, probably 15 years ago, there was that recession. So as a younger professional in an industry, particularly in A&E industry, of where slow down airports, slow down in overall infrastructure, you kind of question like, wow, I just spent, nearly 16 years of academia, 4 years of college. Did I really make the right pick on things? And you kind of have to persevere and just, move forward and look at every opportunity as just that, an opportunity. So that's kind of what I had kind of kept in my mantra of things, of recognizing that it's every opportunity, whether it's a preference or otherwise, is an opportunity to learn something new. And in our industry on things, you can't be a one-trick pony. And so you kind of take everything with stride.
So I'm going to pivot a little bit. Ebony, during her opening remarks, referenced the fact that this is Asian History Month. Your African American friends, get the pleasure of celebrating February as the month. And somehow we got the shortest month of the year. You guys got one of the longer months of the year, right? And so, can you talk a little bit about what this focus, this celebration, this honor means to you and your community?
Yeah, Edwin, if you don't mind, I can take this one. I can start with this one. Ricky, part of when this month comes every year, I reflect back on a lot of the struggles that the Asian American community has gone through. And that struggle is rather silent. And I think you and I had talked about it one time, that there really isn't a very strong we don't have a civil rights movement, but there is a history of hostilities for the Asian Americans that not a lot of people really recognize. For instance, back in the late 1800s, when Asian Chinese people were coming to this country, migrating here, working on the rail system, they were taking a lot of jobs away from people in this country, and they were considered like the yellow peril. The hatred extended to such a point that they actually had a Prohibition Act in the late 1800s that stopped the immigration of Chinese Americans into this country for a little while. And it continued on in this way to the 1960s, I'd say. And that has, that only loosened up because there was a need. I guess we were going through the Vietnam War, and there was a need for healthcare here. There was the race for space and things of that sort, and there was a need for scientists, and the doors opened up a little bit. So I think of these kind of things it's like there has been some struggles that the country doesn't know about, or what they don't recognize quite as much. I think about World War II during this month. I think about those years where they had those internment camps, and you can't even imagine. I can't imagine. It's before my time, obviously, but Asian Americans were being plucked out of their houses, and they could have been me. I was born in this country. I'm as American as anyone can be, and they were plucked out of the middle income houses and put into these internment camps, almost like they were jails for a period of time. So there's been this, and the most recent issues with the COVID-19 and the whole idea of the Chinese flu and the Asian hate type of things going on. I really wasn't paying quite as much attention to it until most recently, but as the last few years, it has raised a sort of a look back on things. And the reason I bring this up is I sort of feel like the Asian Americans are not always included in these discussions regarding equity. But there is a reason for it. And that's basically why I'm here, to sort of tell that message a little bit. And that's what I think about when I go through this Asian American Pacific Islander month. I reflect back on that.
Thank you for sharing that, Dennis. Yes, we did have that conversation over dinner, and it affected me then, and it affects me every time I hear you talk about it. Edwin?
Yeah, Ricky, I have to echo what Dennis was saying. I mean, certainly in reflection on things, you put pause and you recognize, throughout America's history on things where the Asian American community has kind of had their somewhat moments in things. And in the more recent years, I do try to look back on, those moments and say, well, look, what are we doing to be better about that? Certainly with light in the pandemic, as Dennis kind of pointed out, there's some things that I think we can all be better about. And you just hope for better through actual action and contributing to some change on things. Dennis, you talk about, significant points in history on things. I had extended family that were part of a lot of the labor movement in Southern California with the agricultural workers.
Right.
And so you kind of tend to omit or you forget about that. And I appreciate you kind of putting spotlight on that. Yes, we are active in the movement on things. So that's what I think of, Ricky. And admittingly, it's in the community, it's up. We kind of have to remind ourselves of that too, and not keep our head down on it.
Yeah.
So to kind of dig a little deeper into that. I mean, without comparing or pairing one community within the minority community against another, that's not the intent here. Obviously, some communities have done a much better job at overcoming the historical challenges that they've had to deal with. Dennis, you talked about those in the Asian community, and there are other communities that can share similar challenges. But some communities have done a better job at kind of crawling out of that history, that situation than others. What would you attribute to your community that has positioned you to kind of crawl out of that dilemma better than some other communities? And secondly, is that a true statement? Is that a true
that's how
assumption?
I was gonna ask Ricky too. I really love that question, and I want to add on to that. My association with that is probably around the income, and education in comparison to other minority groups. So to me, that's where I see the crawl out, and the comeback is around medium household income and education.
But you might see it differently. You might see
Yeah.
cultural, you might see a host of other
Exactly.
Dennis, it's something that we had talked about, weeks ago on things. If you're okay, I'll bring it up and start the conversation. Ricky, again, and not in comparison on things,
Right.
the notion of model minority has been put out there.
Mhm.
And in that, it's somewhat of a, if I use the phrase that we just kind of said, is that, well, you all have already crawled out and you guys are already kind of, in this status on things. And I think that's a little bit of a misnomer on things. I think there's a portrayal as if, checkbox, work is done. Let's move on to the next community. This one's already set. And I think if you look at the research and look at the statistics on things, I think it's pretty glowing that it's not actually that way. And Dennis, I know you have a bit more insight on it. You want to kind of share your perspective on that?
Yeah, I guess the question is, have we really crawled out of it? I don't think we've crawled out of it any better than other ethnic groups. I think this whole model minority thing is really a poor misrepresentation. We're not all crazy rich Asians. That's not what it is. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The majority of the Asian ethnic groups are at lower poverty levels than the median income in this country. But the problem is that there's this sort of this concept of this model minority and the success stories, and it truly isn't true. There's a need. We can use help. It's not we're not all, we could use the help. There's a lot of the families and the Asian Americans in this country actually migrated to this country, didn't speak English very well, didn't have money in their pocket when they walked in, and it's tough. And it's this whole model minority. I feel it threatens all these equity conversations, whether it comes up in academia in the colleges, whether it comes up in EO in the workforces, or whether it's even, I hate to say it, even like I'm starting to see some movement in the small business discussions with the Asian Americans. So this model minority, I don't think it's fair. I think there's still a need for it. The other thing I don't like about this model minority discussion is that I think it's sort of has felt actually put a little bit of a place a little bit of a conflict. It created a little bit pitted a conflict with the African American community. It was almost like trying to set an example for the African American community, and it's totally, ridiculous. It shouldn't have been done that way. And that also bothers me a little bit, that has happened. So
Well,
yeah, as far as whether or not I feel like we actually, got ourselves through it, I don't know. I mean, we talk about the representation of Asian Americans in executive leadership positions. I don't know if I see a real great representation of Asian Americans, even in the airport industries, in upper management in airports. I certainly don't see it in the Fortune 500 companies. So I think we've done a great job of getting up and getting through to middle management. But as far as trying to break through that into that C-suite, you hear this term bamboo ceiling. I think there's something to that. I think, we work, a lot of Asian Americans are working hard, but I don't know if their achievements are, sometimes they may be overlooked, and I wonder about that. But I don't have any concerns of the next generation, because they're a different breed, and people like Edwin they're gonna go places that, my generation would never be able to do.
Leaping far. He's leaping far. So can I just ask, like, from both of you all, like, what makes you most proud to represent your Asian culture, your heritage, your background? Like, what are you most proud of to be here in America representing that?
Go ahead, Edwin. I need a break.
Yeah. Well, and just to pay homage, I mean, Dennis, I'm leaping on your shoulders. Really, it's a lot of what you've done over the last few decades that kind of gives opportunities, right? Mori, from my perspective, it's you realize that others before you have put a lot of sacrifice, and you want to make the most of the opportunity. Because when I think of, for example, my lineage coming to America on things, I don't know if I would have had that same kind of courage that they had to go through to make those sacrifices, to make it work, and then to assimilate into a different culture, and then plus work, what it takes to succeed in this kind of career on things. So for myself, it's really just kind of, again, leaving it all on the table and hitting that potential, because for me, I feel a little bit remorse that I didn't take it as far as I could have, knowing that so many others have sacrificed just to get us out here. And that to me it's a pretty simple one, but there's a lot in that, because you realize, I mean, frankly, I feel like I have it easier than our prior generations on things. So for myself, it'd be a bit of a insult and disrespect if I didn't really push as hard as I can on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, like, we are our ancestors' dreams. And it's funny because Dennis is saying, hey, this next generation, like Edwin, and you're turning around saying, well, thank you for the people that came ahead of me. So I just like that dynamic of, we're grateful for what the generation ahead of us did, and they're grateful to see how we're moving things forward.
So, there's I think it's pretty clear that that if as communities, if the African American community and the Asian community band together more often, we could probably be more impactful as a union. With that in mind, what would be, in knowing AMAC's membership, its membership predominantly, what would be your message to AMAC's membership?
First, before I answer that question, is when I first started in this business, my first client was in Southern New Jersey. That's where I targeted. And I worked at an airport called Woodbine Airport. And there was a councilman there. He was an African American. His name is Cliff Anderson. He's in politics. He told me a lot about, how things work. And I was competing against a lot of people that were probably older than I were. and were definitely not of color. I was competing against people that were in their 40s and 50s, and I started my business when I was in my late 20s. And the first thing that he noticed when I came to the meeting was that I talked to him. He was in a group of council people, and I talked to everybody on that council. And he was the only person of color on that council. And others would come to that meeting, and they would not even recognize him. And to this day, we're still friends. And by the way, we were selected, and that's been my oldest client that I've had for over 40 years now. So I'm sorry, over 30 years now. So I did want to bring that up. And I have been raised in the New York City, so there's a whole discussion there as far as diversity, and I could talk all day about that. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's, you know, there is a bond. There's a lot of similarities in our discussions throughout the years. He's taught me that being silent, he's learned that me being not as boisterous is not a sign of weakness. And he taught me how to speak up a little bit more. So I guess what I bring this up because he is one of my mentors in my life. As far as the AMAC, what I like to let the group in AMAC know is, yeah, just be, you know, I like to just bring awareness to the struggles that we had. They're not invisible. But more importantly is I like the direction we're going. I like what the younger generation is doing. I like what they're contributing, and I'm hoping that there's a way through this platform that they could get recognized more. And that's what I'm hoping for as part of all of this movement.
Edwin?
To expand on that, yeah, I think the message directly, you know, for AMAC and their partners is, you know, well, let me start different. You know, I'm encouraging of a lot of our Asian community partners in the AEC industry to take a harder look at it, because I think a lot of our partners are like, well, what's the benefit? I don't think that's really an organization for quote unquote us. And, you know, what I encourage them is that, look, you know, this is a great organization that is for the entirety of the minority community. And, you know, there's a lot of benefit to it. And what I would share with our AMAC partners is, you know, reach out to them. You know, I would say that it's, you know, if I look back at 2011, my first time attending the AMAC annual conference, very intimidating. Everyone seems to know each other on things. And I would say if your new business, particularly coming from the Asian American community, it could be intimidating. It could be intimidating. So I think just continue the outreach, because it's, I think, very positive. If I look over the last 12 years that I've been involved on things, I think it's been great. And I applaud their efforts, and I think it should continue.
By the way, I think AMAC is the best conference and the most fun conference to be at. Out of all the
Say
conferences
it
I go
again.
to.
Say that again.
We want to make sure the
It is
recording is
so
on.
fun. Yeah.
You know, not all, go ahead, Mori.
No, go ahead, Ricky.
I said, not all AMAC members embrace the term minority, right? It's something that we live with. It has certain connotations. I mean, I have a lot of I've heard from others in the Asian American community that it's not a term that Asians particularly are particularly fond of. What is that? How does that feel to you? The term minority.
You know, for many years, the whole MBE program, it sort of had this implication of like we're inferior and we need help, and so I sort of veered away. I quite honestly veered away from it myself. But when I think back on it, I mean, you know, there's nothing to be ashamed of. We came from an environment that, you know, yeah, we are a minority, and yeah, there are certain things that when I look back, we're not exactly right, and didn't always have the opportunities that everyone else had, and I embrace it today. It took me probably 20 some odd years to think that way, but I'm there now.
I mean, Ricky, I embrace it. I mean, whether I want to blind myself and think I'm not a minority on things would be kind of foolish on things, but I do recognize just in my upbringing, Southern California, a very diverse area on things. Even, you know, I'd be a minority amongst minorities on things, but you know, I truly acknowledge it, and I think it's something that if to ignore would probably be incorrect. And again, in looking back, it's to ignore that, you know, minorities were treated differently. That'd be a bit disrespectful to not acknowledge that they were treated differently and had different positions. So for myself, you know, again, standing on the shoulders of giants beforehand, I feel that for me to ignore that I am a minority would be inappropriate.
I just like to add one thing that, I mean, the other day I was asking, are you a minority? So it's like, it was really eye-opening to me that, you know, there's this perception.
Hold
that
on.
almost we're an extension.
Who are you saying someone asked you that?
Right. Someone had answered that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Edwin, I mean, just the fact, I love how you keep acknowledging who came before you. So what about you as a leaper? And clearly you're moving along. Like, what about the guidance that you had? Like, if it came from your parents or like your mentors, what does that look like? And then a second question to that is, what's the importance of them being a minority?
So certainly, you know, I could go long-winded on talking about my appreciation for the risk of my parents, and you know, if they were around to witness this, I think they'd be proud of that. But in focusing on my professional mentors, I'm sure we can all look back on it. You know, in my younger years on things, I didn't always know that I had the benefit and the patience of a mentor. A younger version of me would be like, man, this guy's just riding my back and constantly chirping at me, and what is this dude's deal, right? And I've come to find in reflection and some maturity is that there's a lot of folks that I have to be thankful and grateful for in my career of things, because they not only saw an opportunity, but they looked at me not at my face value, but at my potential. And in them seeing what my potential was, they weren't going to let me slack or to not bring my best. And so in my career on things, certainly had a variety of mentors, and to a degree, the fact that they come from a diverse background was pretty empowering for myself, because there was once upon a time where if I could go to any professional building and see who were the ones wearing the shirt and ties, they didn't look like me. And as time went on and I got to see folks that actually kind of looked like me, and I'm like, well, okay, that gives me hope that I can aspire for that. And so I think it's important. And, you know, I always take pause and look back on a lot of folks took time out of their day, took the patience to coach me, so to speak. And we all are, you know, sports fans or NBA fans. I mean, some of them were kind of like Bobby Knight. Some of them were kind of like, you know, Phil Jackson, where they were kind of like zen-like and kind of like smooth on things. And some of them were just in your face on things. And honestly, you know, I wouldn't change that, because honestly, I've taken it all as a buffet and use that to kind of move forward and pay it forward to those that are willing to kind of hear it. So yeah, I think on seeing mentors and coaches from a diverse background, it's certainly one of the big things that kind of gave me hope that, well, maybe I can do this.
Yeah, I like that. Like, you took it all as a buffet, you know, like take a little bit of this, take a little bit of that. And probably the importance of having your minority mentors, but also having white mentors, female mentors, etc.
So I'm gonna go ahead. So go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, by the way, I mean, you know, you mentioned female too. It's like, and you talk about the glass ceiling, you know, it's doubly hard. I can't even imagine what Asian American women have to go through to move forward. You know, they have a double glass ceiling that they have to go through. And I have a lot of respect for women in general, Asian American women, especially in the engineering industry. It's a tough world to participate in.
Thank you for acknowledging that.
Yeah.
So kind of as we turn the corner, I'm going to try to bring a little levity to this discussion. So you both have a particular personality that we're seeing in this session. It may or may not be the personality that we would see if we were in your backyards over the holiday weekend. So your personality, are you more of a shoe guy or a sneaker guy?
Go ahead, Edwin, I guess.
Sneaker guy all day long, man. Ricky, I can't train in the gym wearing loafers, so I'd say sneakers.
Okay.
Come on, I'm from New York City, man. I'm a shoe guy. I gotta look good.
Okay. So are you hot dog or hamburger?
I'm a steak guy.
A steak guy. Okay.
Steak and lobster guy.
Come on, yeah, exactly.
If I had to choose between those two, Ricky, certainly burger all day long. In fact, give me 4 patties.
4 patties, okay.
Any other this or that, Ricky?
No, I think it's important for people to see, I'm silly, right? I love to have fun. I like to bring levity to situations. But if someone sees me walking through the terminal, they think I'm the most serious guy in the world all the time. And, one way to be approachable is for people to see that, you don't always take yourself too serious, that you're willing to have a little fun. You can let your head down and people can feel at ease with you. And that's kind of what I'm giving you guys an opportunity to knock down in those questions.
Yeah, one of the things that I always tell my young pros in the office is, I started my business as a young pro, and I could have walked into these meetings and tried to act like something I wasn't. And I found I was just going to be myself. And I can't tell you how many people had supported me through the years, recognizing that. Just to be yourself. You don't have to be something that you're not. If you don't have 30 years experience, you don't have 30 years experience.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many people took me under their wing and supported me through that. And especially the other thing about being Asian American, one of our struggles is our culture. One of our struggles is the way we've been brought up has been to sort of be internal, to stay self-contained, to take care of your family and not get out there. And that has been a struggle that I've had a lot of guidance through the years. And I'm glad I had it. I'm glad I had those opportunities. And I owe it to a lot of people that have given me those opportunities to be myself.
Was that your struggle as well, Edwin?
It's unique. What Dennis is kind of highlighting is that I think for the Asian American community, most folks won't expect them to be extemporaneous, charismatic, wanting to jump at the first opportunity to public speaking. And early on in my career, I'd always, want to jump into it, be myself, as Dennis said. But certainly there was a bit of a common theme of feedback. It's like, oh, Edwin, we didn't think you had it in you to publicly speak. We didn't think that you wanted to rise up to this and speak on this. And back then I think like, well, shoot, if you gave me the chance, right? But what I just come to find is that in a positive looking forward thing is that, yeah, you got to be yourself and you got to show others that, yeah, the Asian American community can be charismatic, extemporaneous. But yeah, early on it was, and Dennis, I don't know, it sounds like you ran into that, earlier on in your career where, folks are surprised and, it gets you thinking, right? In reflection, it's like, well, how many opportunities skip you because there's a perception that, oh, well, this is a highly public intense setting. Let's not put that quote unquote quiet individual there that just wants to grind it out. So yeah, I had a lot of encouragement, and as Dennis said, you had folks that kind of rolled the dice and said, yeah, let's see what you got on here. And I think it's worked out well for me. I feel blessed about it.
Well, I'm glad to have you all a part of this and keep rising to the top, because I think we know, in the African-American community, in the Asian community, in the Hispanic community, that the more of us that can get to the top, the more likely we're able to pull people who look like us up. So, that's, and I love how Ricky said, like, how do we come together more? It's not a comparison on, oh, we're this minority, that minority, but like coming together as minorities in general.
Well, our good friend Lauren just won't get out of the way. She sent the message. She said, "This has been so informative and enlightening. Wanting to also acknowledge the Pacific Islanders within the community as well. What can AMAC do to expand the Asian Americans, Pacific Indian representation and engagement?" That's her question. Now, she's not on the show. She's not a moderator. She's somewhere home nursing her child. So you don't have to answer her question, okay? She doesn't get off that.
Answer it for her, y'all. Hey, Lauren.
I think Ricky's mad at Lauren.
So what do you all think? Like, what are some things just with the whole APPI that AMAC can be doing? What's your advice to us?
I would love, I mean, Edwin's already doing it. He's participating in leadership roles. He's speaking up. He's doing the things that we need to have happen. I think we need to, if there's ways that we could get our message out there and use your platform, we would love it. If there's ways that we could bring more Asian Americans into the AMAC world and get their participation in it, I would love it, and continue the discussion. And I just want to say to all of you, thank you very much for giving us this platform to talk. Ricky and Ebony and I had talked about this in the past, and just appreciate it very much for giving us this chance.
Well, there's a lot of room for this relationship to grow and expand for all of AMAC and the community that AMAC represents. And so this certainly is not the culmination of our relationship. We have a lot of work to do, and we're committed to doing it. I know Ebony doesn't let a week go by without working on diversifying AMAC's focus and its membership. So
I see we have another question too. And this was from Gwen Stokes. She said, "How has your heritage shaped the person you are today?" And I think y'all spoke to that, but I don't know if there's anything else y'all want to add to that.
I'll start. I mean, I think my heritage and particularly my upbringing on things, it shaped what I do as a professional and continuing that outreach. Again, being a benefactor of someone taking time out of their day or their patience of a saint to mentor and coach or to do outreach events. I think for me, that's kind of formed up to where, I want to pay that forward on things. Again, I think in all our heritages, we have strong family, strong faith, strong care for one another. And I think looking forward in future generations and paying it forward, I think is a big thing I want to continue to focus on.
Yeah, I think I think the other thing that all minorities have to go through too is that there's a sense that we have to work harder than others to get to where we need to go. And I think that sort of value in a lot of our organizations, a lot of our ethnicities has to continue on. That's not going to change. We're not going to get any benefit of the doubt. We're going to have to work harder than everyone else.
Well, I love that. This has been a very, very informative conversation.
absolutely. Look like Ebony is back to seize control again. That makes me
Seize control. That's Lauren in the chat trying to take control. And baby, what's the new baby's name?
Legend.
Baby Legend, who we know is already 2 feet tall over there. Just
Already legendary.
Already legendary. She is trying to seize control, but no, in all seriousness, this has been a great conversation, Dennis and Edwin. I've had the pleasure of getting to know both of you and super impressed, but most importantly, really excited about your commitment to be engaged and working with AMAC on our mission. And so I am going to say again, thank you very much to all of you out there. Again, the reminders are registration is closing online on Friday. If you're doing any sponsorship or exhibiting, you must do it today. We will have record attendance in San Antonio, but there are still a few seats for CWIA, also for the golf tournament that raises money for our foundation. The foundation is giving out a record number of scholarships this year and a record amount of money. And so please don't miss the celebration that we do with our awardees. There have been great people nominated, and we want to celebrate the awardees, but we also want to celebrate the scholarship recipients. So we hope that you participate in the foundation events, hope that you give money, and we hope to see you in San Antonio with 1,000 plus attendees. And so with that, I am going to bid you goodbye. And any final words, Mori or Ricky?
I just think this will go down as one of the more insightful sessions that we've had. I think that the AMAC community at large benefited a lot from this discussion. And I just appreciate Dennis and Edwin for having such an open, frank conversation and being able to tell their story and share their story in such an open way with our community. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I learned a lot too, guys, just in our prep call. So thank you. And it just helps with ignorance, you know.
Well, we still got to get Dennis in a pair of sneakers, so we'll work on that one.
I'm sure he has a pair. His preference. Didn't you say you're on Wall Street right now?
Yeah, we're on Wall Street. You're all welcome to come to visit me.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for joining us, and we will see you in San Antonio. Wait, I've got to give the countdown. The countdown has changed. Give me 2 seconds. We will see you in 9 days, 12 hours, 59 minutes, and 37 seconds. And Shanetta, I put a note in the chat for all of the new members or first-time attendees. Please join us at the new member and first-time attendee meeting and the reception that follows thereafter. So thanks again. Have a fantastic afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. This
All
was
right.
great.
This is amazing.